Let's have some fun creating in my mixed media sketchbook. So this is a page that I had done a while back. I had taped down strips to divide up the sections and played around with some wet-on-wet watercolor techniques. The section I'm working on right now, I'm going back into it with brush pen, but prior to that, I had dropped down a bunch of watercolor colors and then dropped down some rubbing alcohol on top of it. And that's what created those really light bursts, almost like bubble-like areas. So now I'm going back in with the brush pen to kind of reinforce the colors, add some more dynamic value contrast, and refine the shapes a little bit more. There's no rhyme or reason to this. I just follow my intuition, go with whatever feels right in the moment, and have a lot of fun along the way. So in this video, I'm going to address each of the different sections, some of them more than others, just kind of depending on what feels right for that part of the page, and then also kind of work on unifying it all as a whole, because right now it's pretty chunked up. So I went from violet, and now I'm going in with some blue, just letting the watercolor colors guide the choices that I make with my brush pens. And I love a brush pen. They're so versatile. They have such bright, bold colors. Really, any brand you can find is great this way. But they also blend together beautifully, especially when you work on them while they're still wet on the page. And they have that fine tip for small details, but then you can also do nice, bold washes of color too. It's really become one of my go-to mixed media materials or supplies. Then I decided to go in with black. I'm working in the kitchen because I like to create whenever I have time. So that means that I'm creating all over the place. I don't really want to let location stop me because life with two small children, and teaching part-time is just, it's hard, right? It's hard to find time to create. So it's important to me to be able to create anywhere, which sometimes means I don't have all the supplies on hand that I would love to grab. So I do wish that I had gone into this with a thinner black, but in the end, it worked great. These are some calligraphy from a set of calligraphy pens that I've really come to enjoy using. I couldn't tell you the brand, but they work really nice, and especially if you want to get some bold colors. And there's a variety of tips in there. I just happened to grab a couple that weren't my um, normal tip ones, but you try stuff and you see how it goes, and it gives you information for the next time. So in the end, I didn't really love what I had done here with the black, but I just kept going, playing with it, working it out. Went back to my brush pens, decided that was a poor color choice there. Went back over it with blue, which then, because I had used a yellowish, tan, made a weird green, but you just kind of roll with some of those moments. Because again, it's a sketchbook page. Like, it doesn't matter how this turns out. I'm just having fun creating and experimenting and playing around. And I didn't love those black lines, so I decided to go over them with some brush pen in a different blue to kind of minimize their appearance on the page, so then the line becomes more of a subtle texture. And that funky tan color that I had put in, I just decided to embrace it because I kind of liked the color that was created when I went over that with the cobalt blue pen. So I'm just letting that become part of this section of the sketchbook. And in the end, that green works really well with the blues that I have down on the page already. So I decided to move on to the next section and really pop up some of those colors. Sometimes when I do this, I'm a little hesitant because I know that I'm going over the watercolor techniques and some of that's going to get erased, but they're still there adding a boost to the next layer of art materials that I'm putting in. So especially when it's a sketchbook page and it's really about play, I just go for it. I embrace it, and I shrug off those feelings of like, well, that watercolor texture was so pretty. It is. It was. And now it's something new, and that's really fun. So I'm really popping some bold yellow into this section, seeing what happens. It's not, because the watercolor is so set, it's not moving that at all, which is kind of fun, especially with the transparency of the brush pens. And then I didn't have quite the purples that I needed to match this corner of the sketchbook on the top left. But again, I decided to roll with it and just work with what I had. So I started filling in some of the divided sections where the tape had been, and then building off that and kind of unifying sections by going across. And just continuing to pop in some bold color, make some bold decisions, and let the page and the color guide me. This is one of my favorite pinks to work with, and it works so well over the watercolor. It just adds a nice, subtle boost of color, and you can see a lot of the other darker colors underneath it when you layer it over watercolor. And then I had another purple, so I decided to layer that over the plummier one and kind of see what I could do there to help bring it all together. And that darker purple does exist to some level in this picture, so that kind of helps. And then I love to go back and forth between two colors to really get those blends in. And like I said, it works so nice with brush pens. It's become one of my favorite things to do as I kind of figure out the balance of brush pens and markers and getting them to do the beautiful shading that I love to achieve in watercolor and colored pencil. I used to be very precious about laying down my ink lines, and sometimes I still am. But these days I'm finding I like the misstep of the pen when it doesn't quite go on, doesn't quite go along the edge of the watercolor area that I'm trying to define. I really started just being a little messier with it, and then it adds kind of a more dynamic feel to the page almost. Instead of just really meticulously going in and going around those shapes. So if you are someone who is nervous about incorporating ink into your watercolors or your marker pieces, or you find that you don't have a steady enough hand to achieve those really meticulous details, this could be the perfect thing for you. Just roll with it, go with it, let it, get it in the gist of the area that you want it, and let those lines have more fun and be a little bit more playful on the page. It really is freeing to not obsess and really try to be so tight with my hand to get it to go along those edges. And it makes working in a sketchbook all the more fun. And that's what it should be. Art should be fun, and sketchbook pages should absolutely be fun. And then something new in the last, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, I really enjoy creating marks and patterns layered over the top as just a whole other dynamic element. So in a lot of my sketchbook pages, especially, I'm finding myself, instead of going for these flowy colors, or instead of just going for flowy colors and ink marks, going in with the marks like you saw me make in the lower left hand area of the screen. And then I'm continuing to go over where the washi tape was, just to kind of unify things, bring it together. This was a pretty haphazard watercolor demo page that I did for an in-person class that I taught last spring. So I'm trying to, and it's in a travel sketchbook, like it's in one where I can take the pages in and out, which is great. So I'm just really embracing what the sketchbook offers and kind of going back to old pages and giving them new life in pieces like this. Just continuing to jump around the page, kind of take a look and see what needs a little bit more work, where else do I want to play, and how to bring each of the sections to to a completed state, or at least completed for today. And there's my page. See you next time.